And just as I said, fuck Secret Steve, here he comes.
Who is it? Steve.
It's Steve.
Steve who?
AKA Secret Steve. Hey Steve, I was just telling Gary, he asked for the Wi-Fi password for the boat, and I told him it's fuck Secret Steve. Hi, welcome to the Primetime One Fishing Podcast. Primetime One Fishing Podcast, a place for seasoned pros and average Joes, from talking shop to talking shit. A place to talk about fishing, bust balls, all in the name of good fun and camaraderie. We've got a great one for you today. We've got a very special guest with us. Let me introduce him. Our first guest today is the star pupil and protege of the legendary Captain Ed. In his storied and illustrious career, he pioneered the concept of sabiki rig longlining and circumcised live baits. His secretive and covert tactics have earned him the nickname of Secret Steve. So secretive that his boat's hull identification number is 007. He's the 2023 winner of the Chief Brody Trophy and the 2024 winner of the Quint Cup, and thus far the only striper bowl angler to win both a Chief Brody Trophy and Quint Cup. Please welcome to the Primetime One Fishing Podcast, Secret Steve.
Thank you for having me there today, Anthony.
Steve,
all right.
Great to have you with us. And just to clarify, so
Yep.
for the Wi-Fi password, the F is capital, okay?
Yep.
And then the S in Steve is actually the $sign, and then it ends with the number 1, because you have to have a capital, special character, and a number. So if you ever want to use the Primetime One's Wi-Fi, that's the password, okay?
Awesome. Will I find the fish, though, after that?
You may or may not.
All right.
I mean, I can't be too forthcoming with you as you are not as forthcoming with the rest of the fleet. So.
All right, we'll get into that later. Don't worry about it.
We've got lots to talk about. So.
We sure do.
All right, so Steve, a couple things going on here in the off season. There was some talk that possibly they were going to shut the striper fishery down this year. They were talking about maybe even doing a moratorium, doing a closure of the season, different things like that. So ultimately, there's still some things that have yet to be determined over there. But we know there's going to be a season. We know there's going to be a commercial season. We know there's going to be a recreational season. But this is something that you and I have talked quite a bit about. I know you, as well as I do, have some pretty strong feelings about this. So let's start with you. What's your thought process here, and basically the state of affairs of the regulations as they are recreationally and commercially here in the striped bass fishery?
I mean, I know we talk about this all the time, go back and forth. The rule, we got commercial season starts up in June. They got a quota. It hits the quota, and then it's over. Then the recreational size, we got the slot limit. It's okay. We see quite a bit of fish lately. Not as many big ones, we'll say, last year, but the previous year we had lots of big fish. So I can't say if it's working or not. I don't know.
Okay. So, here's the thing. There was a comment period there that the Atlantic States Marine Fisheries Commission, you could do a comment period, weigh in. They were considering some putting forth some guidance this year. And basically, as you probably know, it goes state by state. So ASMFC basically comes out with what the recommendations are, and then each state gets to determine based off their recommendations what they want to do. So they had a comment period. I weighed in. I sent them a letter and told them what I thought. And I did a real deep dive and really researched an awful lot of things before I sent them that letter. Now, look, I'm somebody with a very open mind. I'm a very level-headed, very fair guy. I will call a ball, a strike a strike. I won't let emotions and, personal feelings get in the way of that. But look, I've got to tell you, I cannot remember a time, and I've been fishing since the 90s, the early 90s at that, since I was a kid. I cannot remember a time that we've seen as many big fish as what we're seeing like in the past 4 or 5 years out there. Okay, so I do believe that we have a very healthy fishery. Now, one thing that I will concede is that if you take a look at the numbers, and I did a deep dive into a lot of the data, a lot of the studies out there, the past 4 or 5 years, the spawning has not been great. Okay, the spawning reports, they've had very low numbers out there, but that's nothing that's unusual in this fishery. I went back and I looked at the historical spawning data going all the way back to 1993, I believe it was. So it's 21 years worth of data, basically capped it off last year in the 24 season. So here's the deal. Going all the way back to 1993, here's the thing. There have been 3 insanely good years of spawning. That'd be 1993, 2001, and 2011. On top of that, we've had some really good years of spawning. Like, people always talk about the 2015 year class and what a great year class it was. Okay, 2015, I would say, was a good year class. What I just talked about a second ago was like insanely good. So those 3 years that were like off the charts good, again, 93, 01, and 11. But you've also had some very good years in 96, 99, 2005, 2003, 2005, 2015. Okay, and then you've had some average years thereafter. In fact, there were probably 8 years that are average. Now, what I'm basing this on is when you take a look at all these different numbers, when you look at what the spawning numbers are versus what they were projected to be. What I did was I kind of tried to rate them on a scale of 1 to 5. Okay, like 5 being very good, 4 being good, 3 being average, so on and so forth. So when you look at it, basically what's happening is going back 21 years. Okay. When you take a look at the number of good spawns that we've had out there, like insanely good ones, again, there've only been 3, okay? And then there've been some good ones sort of in line with the 2015 year class like we've had. But what I'm trying to drive at is that we don't always see very strong spawns in this fishery. Like, it's a thing that definitely happens, and the fishery has still remained to be a very strong fishery up until this point, and it's still a very healthy fishery. So here's the thing. It's a fishery that's always had ups and downs. When you look at it, there's some really lean years, and we're coming off of 4 or 5 of them, without question. The past 4 or 5 have not been that great. But we're being carried by the years that have been insanely good, and what I'm trying to drive at is that that's nothing new in this fishery. That has always happened. Again, that's 21 years worth of data going back to 93, and I'm sure in the years preceding that, it was probably somewhat similar to that too. So I do think we've seen a couple of down years of spawning, but this fishery will do what it does best. It'll self-correct itself out over time, and the good years are going to carry us.
Yeah. Or one suggestion would be get everybody on the same page. You know what I mean? Don't make a limit in Massachusetts different from the limit in New York and then in Connecticut. Everybody's got their own regulations. Have them all the same from Maine to Georgia.
Yep, I agree with you.
You know what I mean? Just keep it universal.
I think we're both in agreement we need to move to a one-size-fits-all solution over here, and I think the fishery is a lot healthier than what most people give it credit for. So anyway, getting down to it, you started off fishing back in basically the early 90s, and you sort of learned at the hands of the Jedi Master there, the legendary Captain Ed.
Yeah, I gotta say I was grateful. Thanks for Ed taking me out fishing, and I learned a ton from him. You know, he's fished this area for 60 plus years, so I've learned quite a bit from him. I used to do freshwater fishing until I went out fishing with him, and then he hooked me on saltwater fishing, and after catching some bass, I was hooked. So yeah, early 90s I've been fishing, so it's a lot of fun.
What we have here is about 60 years of striped bass fishing, because that's what I specialized in commercially and recreation. Started bass fishing when I was probably 18 years old. I'm 88 now, so figure out the numbers. I've been catching them for quite a few years. I've caught hundreds of them, probably even thousands. 1982, but it's all faded out, and it just was taken up at Surfland, up at Plum Island. And anything that was 50 pounds plus, they'd put up on their wall, up on the wall. So there's quite a few pictures up there. And that one there was up on the wall, you know. This picture here, that's a 70 pounder.
70 pounds?
70 pounder, and it was, but that was the biggest one caught on this part of the coast for that year. Winthrop, off the Five Sisters, okay, 250 pounders the same day. There's a couple I caught with Steve. I won a few tournaments, the Fox Derby they used to have over in Winthrop. I won.
The Elks, Winthrop Elks.
Yeah, Winthrop Elks. That was a $1,000 prize, which wasn't bad. These are some of the old guys. This guy, he's gone. George? He passed away. Yeah.
Ed's got basically a nice little museum going there down in his basement. It is pretty impressive. You told me about this thing for a long time. And not that I ever doubted you about that, but it was really nice to get down there and actually experience that. And that's only one part of it. He's also got the upstairs portion of it, too. You could have the Platinum membership. You know, that's the special access, limited edition, select guests only type of thing.
Yeah, we'll get you out there. You know, you can check it out. Don't worry.
But, yeah, it's really impressive. I like how he's documented everything over there, how he breaks it all down year by year. And, I mean, that's pretty impressive. And you can tell that guy's definitely a salty guy, knows his trade crafts, knows what he's doing out there. And you kind of learned that, as I said, the hands of the Jedi Master, the legendary Captain Ed. So talk us through how you got started with Ed, and basically how, you know, the origins of Secret Steve's beginnings began with Captain Ed.
There's no secrets, first of all. And second, I got started actually through Sue, because Sue's dad is Captain Ed. So Captain Ed likes to fish. I like to fish. And he said, hey, come on out, let's do some fishing. So I said, all right, let's go. So he took me out on his boat, and that's probably the start of it right there. And then I got my own boat, and I did my own thing after that. But I learned quite a bit from going out with him, from catching bait, fishing tides, looking for bait in different spots, drifts on rips, reading the water, birds, other guys obviously out on the water, seeing what they're doing first. And that's probably about it.
Now, on one of the last podcasts last season, Zizza was talking about, they used to call Captain Ed tennis ball. They said, you want to find the fish, follow the tennis ball.
That was the name of his boat.
Yeah, what's the origin story on tennis ball?
Okay, I have the story on tennis ball. So This is what he told me. He said that he was down the ramp one day because he used to, before he had a slip, he used to trailer his boat down there. Yeah. So he was putting his boat in the water. He was at the ramp putting the boat in the water, and he saw a tennis ball in the water. So he picked it up, and he put it on his trailer hitch, I guess, after, and then that became the tennis ball. So that was the origin of his boat as the tennis ball. He doesn't play tennis, though. You would think that he plays tennis. Ed does not play tennis.
Tell you what, man, for his age, you look at that guy, and he's getting around as well as it is. You wouldn't be surprised if he played tennis out there. I mean, he's
does a lot of walking, a lot of hiking. That's what he does.
Very active guy for his age, and he still gets out there. He still fishes a good couple times a year too. You had him out last year. He was catching some fish. I'm sure you're gonna have him out again this year.
Yeah, we're gonna take him back out this year on the calm days. He's 89, so hey, he's doing great for 89, being out on a boat. So
no, absolutely. Awesome. At that age, just to be able to be out there and be on the boat, even on a good day, there's a lot to be said for that. So no, that's cool. I mean, Ed is definitely one of those guys that for sure, he's one of those old timers who has all that knowledge, has all that tradecraft, and I think that's really cool in the realm of just fishing is how people pass this all down from one generation to the next. People pass down what they learn to different people. When I was a kid, and I've mentioned it before on this podcast, and there's different things I've done on my YouTube channel where I've talked about it. It's basically those people similar to Ed, but like some of the guys we've had on here, like Zizza, Bobby Losbo, George. Those guys, coming up over the years, learned a lot of things from them, and I think that's cool that the tradition gets, the torch, if you will, gets passed down. The tradition continues. So for you to start off your career, from learning like a guy like Ed, which has definitely paid dividends for you, you've done pretty well. As much as I hate to admit that, you've done pretty well out there.
I'll show you a few things. Don't worry.
Okay. All right. I'll take some notes. I'll make sure I bring a notebook with me. Okay. But so far, you're the only person in the Striper Bowl to actually win a Chief Brody Trophy and a Quint Cup. So that's pretty impressive. And for those of you who don't know, okay, so we're going to talk a little bit more about this in one of the coming episodes. We're going to basically dedicate a whole episode to the Striper Bowl, but basically a quick little preview of it. The Striper Bowl is an in-house fishing tournament that we run down the yacht club. It's a private tournament. It's a catch and release tournament out there. It's basically catch a fish, whatever your high fish is for the season. That's what we go by, and it's all catch and release. And we have the Chief Brody Trophy for the striped bass division and the Quint Cup for the bluefish division. And Steve is the only person to win both a Chief Brody Trophy and a Quint Cup. Now, granted, in 2 different years. Okay.
Right.
So, but still, that's pretty impressive that you've won both of those. So, what was it in 23? I think you got the 50-pounder,
yes,
right?
Yes, the striped bass. Yes.
Yeah. So, tell us a little bit about that, the 50-pounder, which sparked an awful lot of controversy because no one thought it, including myself, thought it was a 50-pounder. We had to get the U.S. Departments of Weights and Measures to come and calibrate your scale.
That's okay. You can calibrate the scale. That's
okay,
fine.
but the scale worked. We're gonna give him his due and proper on that.
You want to know where I caught it? How I caught it?
Well, you know what? Whatever you'd be willing to share with the audience
sure,
here. Let's take us through it.
I will let you know because Jay obviously he fishes with me. He knows exactly where I caught that fish. We were there one day. So, anyways, we were fishing. I catch all the big fish usually on chunks. That's how we catch all the big fish. So we were chunking on, we'll say, outside the beach in probably, 7-8 feet of water. And we were marking some fish just cruising along the bottom. And then that's what happens. They just grab it and they run and they take off and catch big fish. That's it. Jay will attest to that. He's caught them. And honestly, that's how I caught all my big fish. My other 50-pounder, same thing. Fishing in 6 feet of water, chunk mackerel, grabbed it, took off, set the hook. That was it. So I got it. Got some pictures for you. The second one was off of Lynn. So I'm sure most of you guys have seen the pictures and know where that fish was located.
As secretive as you are, your spots aren't really that secretive. You fish the same. Right, you fish the same 4 or 5 spots religiously.
I could tell you to go back to that spot, and we all know that the fish are there, they move. So they could be there
Absolutely.
one day, or they
Yep.
can migrate and be there another day. So it's just, you know, you got to be at the right place, the right time.
Very much
and,
so.
And obviously have the right gear to get that fish in. That's it, you know.
Yeah, that's really what it comes down to. Right place, right time. But also having the right gear and knowing what you're doing definitely gives you an edge too.
That
Because you can
helps.
take people and you can put them out there at
Yes.
the right place and the right time. And if you don't know your ass from your elbow,
We've seen some tourists out there, yes,
Oh, totally.
holding the line, and you know what happens after that. So
yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, do you have to be an expert? No. But do you have to know what you're doing? Absolutely. There's going to be people out there that, as I said, they'll get into that right place, right time, but might not go as well for them as they think. And then sometimes too, hey, the really tough thing about fishing, as you well know, is sometimes you do all the right things. Okay, and you are in the right places at the right time, and it doesn't work out.
they're just not feeding right.
Yep.
That's what happens. It does
Yep.
happen.
Oh, it totally does. And there's nothing more disheartening. There's nothing more soul crushing than when that happens, especially if you couple that with a couple of days of bad fishing over there. It can really get to you. But, hey, when your luck changes too, okay, you get that rod bend and you get that nice 30, 40 pound fish, it basically makes up for all that. So it's an emotional roller coaster out there for sure during the course of the season.
Yeah, we tried to catch Jay last year, but we come up short. Jay pulled the big winner last year, so that's
No, he
congrats
did.
to Jay.
Absolutely. And it's obviously the tournament, hey, it's up for grabs this year. The names to be carved into the hallowed Chief Brody Trophy and Quint Cup have yet to be determined. As we're shooting this episode, this is the beginning of May. This will probably air somewhere around the end of May, beginning of June timeframe. So
We'll be
right
out
in
there.
line with when we're going to be getting out there. June 7th, we kind of go by the first Saturday in June. And we usually end at the second Sunday in October. And basically, we just go for the whole season. Biggest striped bass and bluefish by weight. And the cool thing about the tournament, and a lot of people in the tournament have talked about this, it doesn't matter how your season is going. You can be dead last in the tournament. You haven't caught a thing. Yes. And if you get out there on that one day, that one cast, right place, right time, it changes everything, and it can skyrocket you right into the top position.
Hey, right place, right time. That's how I caught the bluefish. I got the tip that they were off the beach that day, and we pulled in there and we were marking fish, and certainly they were right there. We had wire on, so that was it was good.
Okay, so not the day in question,
Sure.
but so there were a lot of bluefish that were around this day. You can see that the pogies are flopping here in these clips that we're seeing.
Yep, that was.
But I know you know where we're going to take this over here. We're going to take this in a very violent direction, a little violent turn conversation here just in a few seconds. Here he is. He found us again.
No, actually,
One of Steve's, 4 or 5 spots that he always fishes.
Yeah, we do.
actually, I called you, and you guys said come on over, so we did.
That's bogeys, and there's some stripers.
That was me and Ziz that day.
There's you and Ziz, a.k.a. Luca Brasi.
You can see where we are. We're right off of Revere Winthrop right there.
Yep.
We're outside of the Sisters. We were just jigging. There was a lot of bait, a lot of pogies right there that day. Tons of pogies, really.
Oh, tons of them. I mean, you could almost walk on them at one point. There were so many of them.
Yep. Yep, we just cast.
Casting the chunks out.
Yep, we'll
Nice
snag
and simple.
Snag a pogie and bring him in slow. He's bleeding, and there was some big bluefish that day. Those things were 15, 16 pounds. They were big, real big. Anthony had on a big blue. It was probably 16, 17 pounds that day. We lost it, but it came right to the boat.
So, as I said, we're going to take a real violent segue here in the conversation. So, just after that last frame where you were kind of jigging that treble hook over there, trying to set it on a couple of pogies.
Yep.
Tell us what happened just after I put the GoPro in. And that's always how it works, folks. The second you turn the GoPro off is when something legendary and epic happens.
I don't know how you lost this footage, and I'm crushed
Well, the thing is,
that you lost this footage.
I think that you assumed that I had it because you saw me there with the
Yes,
GoPro, just
yes.
dialing in to get some footage, get some B-roll on you guys, right? And I was like, all right, cool. I think that's enough. Click. I'm going to put this down for a minute. So I think that you assumed that I might have had this on film. I think that might have been what it
that's
is, but I
kinda
don't think you
important,
realized.
right?
All right.
All right.
Listen, there we were. No shit. This really happened. True story. And it happened just like that. Steve,
All right.
what happened a few seconds after that frame ended?
A few seconds after that, we were fishing. We were on the boat there. I was in the back, and all of a sudden, we see the water erupt right next to the boat, 10 feet away. It just erupted. All pogies jumping out of the way, and all of a sudden, a bluefish, big blue, not bluefish, yeah, bluefin tuna, about 200, 250 pounds, just jumped right out of the water, looked at us, went back down. It was crazy. It was like we could touch him, we could see his eye. It was nuts.
Did you look into his soul when you looked into his eye?
He's looking at us, laughing at us too, but that's okay. So I had a pogie that was actually right in the vicinity of where he just jumped. Like I said, there was big blues, and we saw this giant bluefin tuna. Well, good size. So I jigged my pogie. Next thing I know, boom, it got grabbed. I wasn't sure if it was a bluefish or if it was a tuna that was in the school with these guys. But it took off, and it took off faster than a bluefish could swim. It just took off. So I set the hook, and it just kept on going. It was like being on the back of a car bumper. That's exactly what it felt like. And then Ziz started the boat up, because obviously we're fishing a spinning rod. We have a 25-pound test on there. I had a wire leader on there. You know, we're going to give it our best shot. It was highly doubtful, but we're just going to give it our best shot because we're out there to fish. So Ziz turned the boat, and we started chasing him. We gained some line on him. He was ripping line off the reel, but he just stayed down. The rod was bent. I was up the front of the boat, and he just went straight out towards Graves Light and just stood down straight. And we tried to get over him and lift him a little bit, and then the minute we did that, boom, he started hitting it again and taking off. So we had him on for, it felt like an hour, but it was probably really like 5-10 minutes that we had him on.
Probably not even.
Yeah, and we actually caught him, hooked him, we'll say 35, 40 feet of water. That's what we were in. And
Give or take.
And we were out to about 70 feet. That's about where the hook got pulled, unfortunately. We lost him after that, but...
he took you for the Nantucket sleigh ride.
Well, we weren't in a kayak that he was pulling us around. We were chasing him, so we were going like, 10 knots.
Oh, no, you were definitely putting some power up to stay with him. But
yes.
No, he was taking you guys out towards open water. No question about that.
But it was just a blast, just feeling him on the rod and have him pull line. Even though we're going, he's still pulling line out of the reel. And I'm hooked. So.
Yeah, I mean, you got to figure, okay, you're fishing a spinning reel over there. I don't know of anybody that actually calibrates drag on a spinning reel. So, who knows what your poundage of drag was. I cannot imagine you have more than about 10 or 12 pounds of drag on something. And I think I'm probably high siding that at 10 or 12. So, you're not stopping that fish with 10 or 12 pounds of drag on a spinning reel like a Penn 750.
I turned it down a little bit, but I didn't want to do it too much because he was just...
Well, then you snap the line.
Right. He was just going. You could see the line just coming out of that off the reel nonstop. There was nothing stopping. But it was fun. It was a blast. It was a rush. It definitely gets the adrenaline going.
Right.
And obviously, if anybody else caught one, they probably know what it feels like, and it's a blast. Oh,
it's absolutely a blast.
I never caught one. I never had one on the line before, so that was the first tuna I've had on the line, but I'm hooked.
I just think to catch one in Broad Sound, especially like right there, right off the beach, I think that'd be epic. It doesn't have to be a giant. Look, and the thing is, they were in there.
People will say that, there's no tuna around. We have them on film. Well, you don't have them on film, but actually Bobby has another video previously that year of tuna jumping.
So, all right, I'm glad that you mentioned that. They're not the best pitches. Bobby just took these with his phone.
And Jay had the shark too. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So, that's one that Bobby took. I think this was a few days before you hooked up.
Previous.
Now, here's the deal. If you zoom in on this particular picture right over here, okay, you can see that's clearly a tuna right there. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But also take a look there. If you look just in that landmass there towards the left third, you can see the red, white, and blue. You can even see a little speck there if you zoom in. That's an airplane probably just taken off from Logan. So, the red, white, and blue right there with the backdrop, that's Broad Sound. He got that. That was just outside of the Flip Rock Buoy at Nahan Harbor where he saw that one.
Yep.
And then the next one right over here almost looks like a great white.
Yeah, it looks
and
like
then there's a seal right over there. There's a seal right over that way. But no, it almost kind of looks like a great white, but it's another bluefin tuna right there. Now, I was out fishing earlier in the season in July with Jay Sagaz, and we were fishing basically that same general area, probably about a half mile from where both of those pictures were taken, and not too far from where you had this hookup. And there were 200-pound class tuna in there with pogies. We saw them come up. We saw them breach on the pogies. Another time I was out a couple weeks after that, I saw another bluefin tuna out there. Point that I'm driving at is that there are those bluefin tuna that were there all last season. Now, historically, we see the football-sized ones, like the 50 to 100-pounders, come in like in the fall.
Yep, off Nahant, we've seen them.
Yeah, they come in off Nahant, like basically like late September, early October, right? But we were seeing some pretty consistent 250, 200-pound-ish type tuna in 30 feet of water. And basically within the shadow of the beach, in some cases like 100 yards off the beach, we were seeing them out there. The pogies were so intense, and if you look in that clip, there were some real serious schools of pogies out there.
Yep, they were.
Right? And that's obviously what was drawing them in. They were just staying there on the pogies. So I just think it'd be really cool. Just that'd be epic if you could say that you got a tuna in Broad Sound.
We're gonna try again this year. We've got we're gonna bring the heavier rods out this year just in case that we see a tuna
I'm telling you,
breaching out there.
get a pair of 50s, keep them on the boat, keep them at the ready. That's what I'm doing, you know. And hey, who knows? Right place, right time, like we talk about. You never know what could happen.
But this year too, obviously, I saw it down in North Carolina. There was guys fishing off a pier, and same thing.
I saw that.
They caught tuna this year. They shut the pier down. They shut fishing down there because of that. But these guys were in kayaks and fishing off the pier, catching bluefin tuna. They weren't 200. I think they were like 100, 140 pounds, 150 pounds, but. Pretty wild to think about that. You're in a kayak.
That's going to take a kayak for a ride.
That's awesome, right? You're in a kayak and you've got a 100+ pound tuna pulling you around, and he caught it on a spinning rod, which is awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Oh, it's definitely been done.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a real tricky feat to pull off. But I'm of the firmly of the persuasion that if you had the right rods for it, you had some 50s that were maybe get some 80-pound braid backing on it, maybe put some 80-pound top shot. You got some good crimps, good leaders that you're fishing with. I think you got to definitely have a fighting chance at a 200-pound class tuna.
We'll just have to wait and see if they show up this year with the bait.
Oh, absolutely. But I'm already hearing reports that there's seals in the Saugus River. And, with that being said, if there's seals that are in the Saugus River as early as April, they're in there for a reason, and it's not because there's not bait around. So, I'm hoping that that's a good market indicator that we're going to see an awful lot of bait in there. One last thing closing this out, you gave your take on what happened when you hooked into that tuna. So I was in that same position from that last frame. That's how close I was to you.
Yeah, you were right. Yeah, you were right there.
So I go and put the GoPro down, and not that I would see a reason why there should be a landmine in the water or a bomb or something like that, but I'm not even talking out my ass. I thought something blew up next to your boat. Like I thought like unexploded ordnance or something. Like I really thought like a bomb went off next to your boat, because like you're not thinking there's going to be like a 200-ish pound tuna right there. I mean, we knew that there was some tuna in the area that season. There's no question about that. But it's not something that you're just thinking right off the top of your head. All of a sudden, I just see just this eruption of water. It was like legit, like something exploded. Like I kind of got nervous for a second. I'm like, shit, I think something just blew up next to Steve. I'm thinking like, oh shit, man, his boat's taking on water. Like we're gonna have to go like get him and Zizzer out of the water. We're gonna have to be calling the Coast Guard. And then I realized those are the first few seconds. That's what I'm thinking. Then I realized it's a tuna. And here's the funny part that I don't think you know about, but ask Gary and Bobby. They'll back me up on this one. The second we realized it was a tuna, I went from being like a little bit worried about you guys to like now I'm sitting there and like, dude, I'm not gonna lie, I was motherfucking you up and down. I was like, I can't believe this. All season long I've been trying to hook up to one of these things and he gets one by accident. If he lands this thing, I'm gonna be furious.
It wasn't by accident. I mean, we obviously saw him. We were just taking a shot to see if we could get him, and any guy fishing out there would do the same thing.
Oh, 100%.
You got to
100%
give it a shot. If you don't
Yeah.
give it a shot, then why are you out fishing?
No, and then after about 2 minutes of berating you, I said, all right, let's go help him out. Let's see if we can maybe help him corral this thing or something like that, or maybe gaff it for him or something.
Yeah, if we could see it, but he never came up to the top, unfortunately. But it was
just
fun.
like you said, he went to the bottom and turned out basically due east towards the lighthouse and said, I'm going for open water, and then that was that. But Steve, it was a valiant effort on your part.
It was a blast. That's why I would love to catch another one this season. So stay tuned. Maybe we will have some pictures and some video of this year.
I'm going all in. Listen, I'm going to make a few trips out to Stellwagen this year just to try to get in on the recreational tuna game out there. But I'm definitely keeping the heavy gear on the boat. I'm keeping it at the ready. And, hey, if I see him breaking out there, I'm going to give it a shot, and we'll see what happens. In fact, I put 2 swivel holders on the boat. The way that I saw it is that if I actually do hook up and I'm out fishing by myself, I'm going to have to fight this thing. I can't fight it stand up by myself. I'm going to have to basically go to a swivel holder and just hope that I can manage this thing. And you know what? Here's the thing. I'm not equipped to do this commercially. I'm only looking to get like a small one. The way that I see it, if I'm out there by myself and I can get this thing up to at least 10 feet away from the boat, I'm going to call that a moral victory, okay? Hey, I'm not going to mess around with trying to bring a 200-pounder on board by myself, which I'm not even harvesting anyway, but hey, if I can at least get them up to the boat, and I'm by myself, I'll look at that as a win.
We'll have
So
to get out there together then.
absolutely, we'll do it.
All
So
right.
Steve, another
Yeah.
thing I want to go into over here. Let's
Sure.
let's get into this video. So you're a pretty crafty guy. I don't know if this is a Captain Ed thing or if this is a Secret Steve thing.
All right, so we're out here at our
to us a
first
little bit
spot
about
trying
this.
to load up with some bait. Stevie's going to go with one of his special,
Double sabikis.
yeah, double, even triple sabiki sometimes too. Long lining, as he's come to call it.
Yes, it
So
is.
check out this little contraption here, folks.
So you got a 6-ounce diamond, and you got a double sabiki on a yo-yo to keep it so it doesn't tangle. But they do tangle anyways, so best you can do.
I got to admit, it is an interesting concept. Personally, I think it is a pain in the ass to manage, but Stevie has done this over the years. He is a master of this skill set over here. This is kind of his thing. He doubles and triples up on the sabiki. He basically runs like pretty much almost 12 to 18 feet worth of hooks out there to catch the mackerel. And I got to say, it usually does work pretty good.
Don't try this at home, kids.
Yeah, we come up with that. Ed, he'd like to double sometimes when bait is like scarce, hard to get sometimes. So if you fish with multiple sabikis together, obviously put a diamond jig on the back of it to keep it in order. You'll hit more of the water column with 2 or 3 sabikis. Obviously, it is a little tougher to bring up and manage when you got all these max on there. But if you have a center console, it's a little easier. Go up the front, and then just bring in like a clothesline right down to the side of the boat,
Right.
and then just take them off. So you can get your bait a lot faster. So you'll go out there and you see guys like struggling trying to catch mackerel, okay, because they got a single sabiki on there and they're going every which way, and they might get one here, one there. With the multiple rigs, you're going to catch, you could catch 15, 16, 17 max in one set. So you maximize your time and get your bait quickly, and then you go fishing.
Now, you said something there, and I think it's key. If you have a setup just like yours, a center console, you can absolutely get away with doing that. So, I mean, my boat, it's the old school Grady, the walk around cutty. It's not going to work on something like that. I mean, maybe you get away with a double,
yeah.
maybe, and that's really pushing the limits on something like that. But the boat has to be set up for it, and you need to have a minimum of 2, probably more like 3 people to pull something like that off.
Yeah, two people can do it, because you bring it up and then you have one guy just hold the rod up straight in the front, and then you just stretch that line out and then just start taking off your max and just put them in a live well.
Yeah, and like I said, if you have that setup and you have those people out there, it definitely is something that works. And the cool thing, like you said, when you go on a triple, those sabiki rigs, most of the feathers you're getting out of your store bought type sabikis are probably right around like 6 feet, give or take. So I mean, you're covering a good 18 feet of the water column right there. So if you do have those mackerel that are dialed in, within 4 or 5 feet of one particular area,
Yeah.
you might find that like, hey, I'm hitting them right in the middle, or I'm only hitting them on the lower third or something like that. But at least you're getting down to a point where you have a fighting chance that a single sabiki might not give you. So you have some advantages there. Those are your pros, obviously. The con is, like I said, if you don't have the right setup or you're fishing by yourself, it becomes logistically too difficult to try to run. But right setup, right crew, it works for you, and that's kind of been your staple play. That's like that's sort of like the one of the signature Secret Steve type.
It's no secret. You guys know how to do it.
Well, it's not a secret anymore. We spot burned you on that, or we
That's
strategy
okay.
burned you.
That's fine. You can try it out there and see if you can do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's-
I mean, I say that I loosely say that you're the guy that invented that, but I'm sure that there's other people that have been doing the same exact thing. But
I saw guys in Florida. That's how I got the yo-yo idea, because I saw guys in Florida fishing with those things, and he had like a rig on it, and he just wrapped it up and went fishing with it. So I'm like, hey,
Yeah.
this would be good to hold the sabikis.
No, for sure. No, and it definitely works for you. So, all right, Steve, progressing right along, let's kind of get into like the home stretch here. So we're going to kind of go down memory lane with you over here, and tell us a couple of fish stories here about these fish.
All right, that's my first 50-pounder I caught, and that was back in '09. I caught that fish. I'm a little bit younger there though, so that is me. That's at Seaport Landing. We weighed it in on the scale over there. It was a little over 50 pounds. It was 50 and a half inches, a little over 50 pounds. And actually, I got that. I brought that home, put it in the freezer, and I brought that to the taxidermy, and I've got that on my wall at home.
Ah, cool. Do you still have the hat?
The hat's long gone.
Okay.
Sorry, hat's long gone.
All right, just checking. No, okay, look, you look at this and you can tell that's a pretty sizable fish right there.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. I mean, I know what 50-pounders look like. Okay, full disclosure, never actually caught a 50-pounder. Not going to lie, never caught a 50-pounder. But seen people
Angles and
catch them.
cameras, and they can play. I've seen 30-pounders that look like 50-pounders.
And that's kind of what I'm driving at. It's like, you look at that and you know that that's a big fish. But, the thing with, and I find this to be even more true with striped bass. I think it's true of a lot of fish, but especially with striped bass, is that you can get like a good 30, 35-pound fish that, like you said, can look like when you glance at it, like, oh, that's got to be a 50-pounder. And then you weigh the thing in and you're like,
30 pounds,
what?
yeah.
The scale's broken. This has got to be more than 35. No, it's a 35. I'll tell you what, man, sometimes with these fish, when you take a picture of them, it does not do justice for how big these things really can get.
True.
It doesn't.
You got to move the camera up close. You know the tricks that people do, and you hold the fish out. And it looks a lot bigger.
Yeah.
These are no frills. I think that was taken maybe with a Polaroid or something. I don't know, or digital camera back in '09.
But it's crazy though. I mean, it's sometimes when you see these big fish and you get them on the boat, like you just really, if you see the picture, like unless you were there, you really don't have the appreciation of how big these things are. And that's what it ties in with what sparked the scale controversy in the tournament, was when you posted that picture of the 50-pounder on the Facebook page and said, hey, okay, it's 50 pounds. Yeah, everyone, even myself, like fuck you. That's not 50 pounds. Are you kidding? No, it's 50 pounds. And all right, that's it. I want to see your scale. All right, and your scale was accurate. And it's like, all right, we're gonna take you at your word that it was a 50-pounder.
So next time I will. Well, I don't like to hum the fish, but I'll hang the scale.
No, don't. And you know what?
Because I like to get them back in the water.
Listen, I tell everybody in the tournament, all we need is just length, a measurement, and a weight. You don't have to video or picture yourself doing it. We trust you. Everyone's basically taken at their word. Your word is a gentleman. But we want to see the fish be be released healthy.
I agree. And we did release those other big fish, and Jay, he can attest to that he was out there that day, and we caught, I would say those were some of those low 40s, those fish that we caught that day on the beach. So they're out there.
Oh, they definitely are. I mean, look, like I said, full disclosure, I've never caught a 50-pounder. I'm hoping to change that this year. For a striped bass, the 50-pounder is the fish of a lifetime that everybody's looking for. I'll admit it. Hey, I've yet to hit that milestone in my career, but 25 is the season that I'm going to do it.
I think there's bigger fish than 50s out there. I think there's some 60s out there. Really.
I agree. Well, you know what? A lot of people's scales only go up to 50 pounds. So I made sure that I got a scale this year that's capable of going north of 50.
I have a 100-pound scale. I bought that, and I also have a 50-pound scale.
Okay,
so just
all
in
right,
case.
Just in case. I like that. But
I know there's 60-pounders out there.
But we take this very seriously. This is why we get George Gagnon now, who is basically the master of scale. He does the scale calibrations at the beginning of the season. So we make sure everybody's scales are up to date. We have them calibrated and make sure we get good, accurate readings out there. So it's you can tell that's a very sizable fish. But that picture, as nice as it is, I'm sure it doesn't do justice to how big that fish was in reality.
I'll send a picture of my wall there, so you'll understand.
All right, so next one, we got Captain Ed with a couple of nice ones.
Yep. He's got a couple nice fish on the dock there. That was, I think, a commercial day. We caught 2 nice ones right there and put those to market. So that was a good day. That's a good-sized fish off of, well, you know what that is. That's right off the beach right there. That's one of our spots where we fish. We chunk right there.
Yep. That's just like a textbook spot for around here. Look, we have a lot of rocky coastline around here, but we also have a lot of sand bottom. So look, everybody I shouldn't say everybody, but a good number of people watching this podcast probably know exactly where that is. It's right off of Lynn Beach. It's a nice sandy bottom, and when you want to play the chunk game out there, that's one of the places to do it, on that nice sandy sort of featureless bottom.
I like the chunk because it's relaxing. You're going fishing, you anchor up, you got all your bait, you throw your chunks out there, and you're waiting for a fish to come by. A lot of guys get impatient. They don't like that. They like to troll instead, but everybody's got their own, we'll say, method of fishing. So, it is successful. Chunking, if they're in the area and they're feeding, that is successful. That's a picture of Captain Ed. He's at the Winthrop Elks Help Hook the Cure tournament, and that's, I think, was a tournament winner. He won that a few years. I won it once. I placed a few times, but he won it the grand prize a couple times for this
Yeah.
fish. The one-day tournament. It was a good tournament.
And those tournaments were great, back, the regulations, what they are right now, the slot limit at 28 to 31, to do it, to do that type of a tournament where you're actually bringing a fish for weigh-in, like our tournament's catch and release, right?
Yep.
But, to do that type of a tournament where, you have that one common scale, that way there's no controversy, it's whatever that particular scale says, I really miss those days, and I do hope we get back to them. And listen, like we said, not to go off into a tangent, but I believe that we got to go back to the old school, into the old school 36 inches or better, and have that be the thing, up and down the coast. I think that's what we got to do, and if we do, we can go back to tournaments like that. However, that being said, those were great days when we could run those types of tournaments. I know that Fox Hill Yacht Club has their tournament coming up. I mean, again, we're shooting this the beginning of May, so that's coming up, not too long. As this airs, it'll probably be within a few days of when that's happening, maybe a week or two at most. But we talked about this, sort of in the green room here, if you will, earlier before the podcast. I'm very likely, unless something changes, not going to do that tournament because, going out there to try to get a monster-sized slot fish at only a 3-inch slot window, I mean, it's nothing against what they're doing. That tournament is for a great cause, and there's great people who run the tournament, but I mean, I'm just not trying to go out there to get a slot fish. So, nothing against that tournament. They're doing a great thing over there. I support them. I think they're doing a great job. It's all for a good cause, but I do miss those days when we could have tournaments like that.
Yeah, I miss them too, but they were a thing of the past, unfortunately, around here. So
yeah, well, like I said, keep the faith. I think this fishery, like I said, I believe is healthier than most people give it credit for. I think if we get a couple of good spawn years and we go back to more reasonable regulations, I think we can get back to it. So, keep the faith.
that's my buddy Nick. He was actually fishing. We were outside of Lynn on that one. I think that's like 38 pounds, that fish right there. That's a good sized fish. Again, I'm pretty sure we cut that on a chunk. You can see the gear in the back, not too far offshore. And so that's it. Another good day out there.
Right in the shadow of the shore.
Yeah.
Pretty cool said.
That is me at the Help Hook the Cure tournament, the one in the Winthrop Elks, and I won it that year with that fish. That was a little over 38 pounds, that fish right there. So again, they don't have it anymore. It was a good charity cause. It was Parkinson's? Pretty sure it was a Parkinson's disease. Help Hook the Cure. That's what it was. And unfortunately, they don't have it anymore. But it was a good tournament.
Yeah, and when they have these tournaments, they were all for good causes. I mean,
yeah.
Maybe that could, who knows, man? Maybe that could be something. Maybe you get like a special waiver or a special permit. If you tie it in with a charity or something, maybe there could be some exemptions for that. I think that'd be maybe a good thing to look at. Until we can get things back to more normalcy here, if you will.
Yeah. That's Captain Ed doing some chunking again with the spinning rods, and he's got a nice fish there. I'm not sure how big that one is, but it looks decent size. It's over his waist, so it's a pretty good size.
Oh, definitely. That's probably a 40-pound fish all day long.
Yep. That's my dad and another friend, and Henry, and we took them out fishing on a good day. They only come out on good days, and it was a nice, sunny, calm day, and they caught themselves a couple nice fish for some fillets for later.
Nice.
It was a good day for him.
Great day.
Captain Ed at the commercial shop, bringing him in, weighing him in. Looks like a half decent day that day right there. And
I'd say 5 fish. I'd say that's a good day. It's probably yeah. It's a respectable day.
Yeah.
You don't limit out every single day.
No, it's very hard to.
No, it is.
Obviously,
I've never limited out. I've never have.
No, I haven't either. But obviously, we just do this as a.
I would call that a very respectable day.
Yeah.
Bringing in 5 fish to market on there on a commercial day, and that's a great picture of Captain Ed right there.
Yep.
All right, so we'll wind it down with that. So, all right, Steve, coming down the home stretch of our time together over here, we've covered a lot of good ground today.
We did.
So, the Striper Bowl. Tell me tactics this year, strategy, anything that Secret Steve is willing to share, other than your intentions to win it all.
Well, of course, we all want to win, but best of luck for everybody out there that enters it this year. It's being at the right place, the right time, and that's really what it's all about. You got to read the water well, talk to a few guys, see what they're catching in those areas, and then bring your gear and get out there. If you any tips, just call me. You know where I am.
All right. We got it. Steve,
hey,
pleasure to have you on today.
Thanks
we'll
for
see you on
having
the water, and good luck this year, and hopefully this is a third time as a charm here to finally get you on the podcast.
I sure hope so.